Hello and welcome to How to Film Weddings. My name is Nick Miller, and today I had a fun podcast. I was able to record with my friend from the north, Maclean Carlson of Hello Tomorrow. He is working on something that is incredible, and if you follow our channels and stuff, you might have seen it, but it is called Plotline. It is an AI tool that he has worked months and months and months on. It basically, you upload all of the audio from your wedding day, and then it creates an A-roll, a dialogue story that's kind of has a narrative story at its core, at its heart, and it's incredible. I got a chance to mess with it and play with it, and I could not recommend enough. And we talk so many things in this podcast, but we spent a little bit of time talking about where that came from and what it is and how powerful it is, and you definitely want to check that out. But before we get going with my interview with Maclean, I want to talk to you about our friends over at VidFlow. Howtofilmweddings.com/VidFlow. If you are looking for a solution to delivering your wedding films, or if you're a company that also offers photography, you can deliver your photo and video galleries on VidFlow. It's cost per project, so you're not paying a yearly subscription or a yearly fee on those services. You upload the videos, you upload your photos, and it's a really nice looking gallery. You can embed it on your website if you would like, or you can just send them a direct link. You can white label, where it's on, your website. You can also do stuff like moving backgrounds and audio, and there's a lot of cool features, and it's a really, really nice presentation, and it will definitely wow your couples. So if you'd like more information about VidFlow and how they can do more for your business, head over to howtofilmweddings.com/VidFlow. All right. And with that, let's jump into this week's episode of the podcast with Maclean Carlson from Hello Tomorrow. Well, Maclean Carlson, man, I really put that in there. Max
Solid start.
From Hello Tomorrow. Welcome onto the podcast. It's good to catch up. How are you doing today?
Likewise. I'm doing just fine, man. Yeah, life's good lately. Wedding season, we're just about to kick into. Things are busy. Family life's busy, but good. How about you?
Oh, doing well. Today actually was my son's last day of school. So they had a half day. One thing that my dad always said, he's like, what's the point of having a last day of school? Because you don't do anything, right? And he's like, so just
100%.
make the day before be the last day of school, but then the day before would be the last day, it would be the same thing. So where does it end? I
Makes
don't know.
sense to
But
me. I
yeah,
think you got
but
something there.
he had a good time. They had an awards ceremony thing. He got I can't remember what it was. Every kid gets an award. He goes to a small private school with 60 kids or something. So all of them got one.
Oh,
He got
awesome.
one, and he was very excited about that. They played some kickball. Then we had lunch at Freddy's Frozen Custard. It's a burger place. You probably don't have those up there in
Not
Canada.
in the Great White North, no.
No,
Sadly.
no. Yeah. So our
Oh, that sounds awesome.
yeah, daughter's last day is tomorrow, and then we're kicking high gear into summer stuff. What's new in
Yeah,
your
man.
world?
As far as what's new, the same old. Well, actually, this is kind of cool. This year we were very fortunate to be able to get our visa to work in the U.S. All above board. So that was a big thing. We had a few U.S. weddings earlier this year. That was really fun to be able to cross into the country, and they were just like, "Yeah, come on in." So that was cool. And then lately, I've been pouring myself into a new project. I know we'll get into it later, but for the last 6 months, any spare second I had, I've been pouring myself into that. So a lot of desk time. So your
Yeah.
kiddo's last day of school sounds pretty attractive. That sounds like something I am missing.
Yeah. And we, wanted you to come on the podcast to talk about this new thing that you have been working really hard. We've been talking, on and off for the last few months, kind of what you've been cooking up. I'm really excited
Yeah, man.
for this to get out into the wild. And I know that we will get into that here in a little bit. So,
For sure.
how's the wedding season shaping up for you up there? You guys fully booked? You real busy? How's that going?
It's been good. It's I know people probably have felt this industry wide, but it has in terms of people inquiring, that's gone down we are very
Hmm.
fortunate that we've got a full season still, so that's been good. But yeah, it's been a really exciting season. We've already got three weddings down, and like next month is when it's, back to back all summer long. But we have some really cool ones we're really excited about. We got to go to Colorado for the first time. We actually shot with Cody Stanton, so that was really fun.
Hmm.
And yeah, just been pouring ourselves into that, trying to elevate our game this year in the actual shooting and, of course, the actual editing and piecing of the story together. And it's been really fun. I know I've been doing this for a good long time. This is, what are we, 18 years? And I've been really excited to, even now, this far into it, keep pushing and trying to elevate what we're doing. And that's been a really fun process. Sometimes challenging, but rewarding for sure.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I know that uh, it kind of goes through phases, doesn't it? Where sometimes you're maybe really hungry or really inspired or whatever, and then you kind of sometimes there's where you go through lulls and you're like, man, I'm just I'm just really sludging through here, and I really can't, nothing feels like it's sticking, and nothing is really good. But that's encouraging and exciting to hear for you that you're, excited and want to move forward with it. So,
Well, it
um,
comes with the time of year too.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I don't know about everyone else, but like usually come spring, I'm like raring to go, especially being in Canada where our season's been slow over the winter. I'm ready, the creative juices are flowing. I'm ready to try some new things. Talk to me in late August and I'll be maybe a little burnt out, but
Right, right. Everyone's excited whenever, it's your first few of the year, or there's that one that you're, really amped up about for the year. But after you kind of go
totally.
through a long year, it can kind of be like, huh, oh, I need a break. I need a break here. So,
Yes, absolutely.
how are you know, we've been chatting, and I know your wife is you've always kind of been a husband and wife duo. We're over here at Wild Oak Films are in kind of a similar boat, but I think both of our wives are like want to be moms and want to do stuff with kids, kind of that. Like what's
Yes.
what's that dynamic, and what's that thing kind of shaping up to for you guys? Is she still doing a lot of stuff with you, or are you kind of moving more into the
It's
Mac show?
the Mac show.
Yeah.
It has shifted a bit. Like your wife. My wife has noble desires of being a really good mom uh, and homeschooling our kids.
Mm.
So that's been taking up a lot of her time. So yes, it has shifted in the past few years, especially since our second child was born, our daughter. It has become more myself and then hiring second shooters. Um, but it has been actually a really good growing experience because we've been doing husband and wife things since the jump in
Hmm.
2006, and that's been wonderful. And we still do get to shoot together a lot, but we don't guarantee it anymore. It is at
Hmm.
least one of us. 99.9% of the time it is myself, sometimes her, and then yeah, other approved second shooters that we have join us. Actually, that's why that time in Colorado was with Cody Stanton.
Hmm. Hmm.
That was really, uh, yeah, he really filled in and did us a solid there. But it's been really cool, and we were at first nervous about, I'm sure a lot of husband and wife duos are concerned about this too, but we were wondering how our clients would react because it is very much forward facing, bride and groom facing. It is a husband and wife duo. The fact that it isn't us, we were nervous people would be upset about, or it wasn't both of us rather. But thankfully, everyone's been so cool, especially with like we're real honest with them. We just say, hey, we can't guarantee it. We're gonna push for it. But just the realities of being a parent in this industry, it's
Yeah.
not always so doable.
Yeah, that's one thing that over the last couple of years, Jen has taken a little bit of a step back, at
Yeah.
least the forward facing stuff with filming and that sort of thing. And I've probably filmed, I don't know, 4 or 5 over the last couple of years,
Mm.
where she was not there, and I had to bring in a second shooter, to do
Right.
that. And the couples that I've been working with have been very cool about it. Yeah, they hired us for that kind of thing, but I just kind of explain the situation, and like as long as I'm there, it's kind of like,
Yeah.
okay, if you bring in someone, like that's what matters. And I think that people, um when you're in a situation like that, you can get worried about, do I tell them, do I not tell them, do I show up? And again, it's just communicating with
Yeah.
people, and that's really what matters the most there. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's cool.
I think.
It's I don't know, a good thing, a scary thing, a weird thing, I don't know kind of how to put it, but
Yeah.
just the evolution of how this business, and you've been doing it for almost 2 decades. I've been in it for 15 years or so. So just the ebbs and flows of the changing landscape of what we're doing. It's
100%.
it's an interesting thing.
And I think couples are really cool in that like they really sense the transparency and they know we're not trying to pull a fast one on them. They're really,
Hmm.
if you're
Hmm.
transparent and honest with them, especially far in advance, they
Hmm.
are so cool with it because the nice thing with Erin too, she still doesn't mean she's not involved whatsoever. She still has a
Exactly.
hand in helping me craft the edit, and I always love getting her thoughts on things. She saves many of films that I edit. And I'm sure the same with you and Jen, because Jen, I don't know if that's still the case, but she did like all of your post processing for a long time, right? Like all the grading and stuff.
Yeah, she definitely does all the color, and
Yeah.
actually lately, because I have been doing some other stuff.
Hmm.
She's picked all the music for a long time, and she's really
Wow.
good about doing the music. And she is, when it comes to those kind of things, she's kind of a tedious person
Hmm.
in the sense that she might find a song that works really well, but she just has a gut feeling. It's like this one, this. So she'll look for another hour or two or three to find the perfect song, which there are so many of us that are like, first one that we hear that's somewhat sort of decent, like, okay, I'll use it. And they just kind of go from there.
Right.
But she is really good at that. And she, for the last few that we've edited, she's actually laying out all the A roll, kind of
Oh,
where,
wow.
speaking stuff and where she wants that to put in. And so
Oh, right on.
I don't know, the last few edits have more, she's done a lot more of the work than I have done.
Wow. Way to go,
100% for
Jen.
sure. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like
So,
I like how you started that sentence or that that I guess paragraph. The Jen is a tedious person is gonna we could lift that out and that could burn you later.
well, I don't mean that. I
I
don't mean that.
know.
I don't mean that in a negative sense. She doesn't mind. She has never minded doing stuff that I would consider tedious, right?
Yeah, totally.
Repetitive, focused tasks, stuff that's just not who I am. But she is like, no, this needs to be perfect, and she's very meticulous.
Good for her.
Maybe that's a better
Meticulous.
word.
That's a
Meticulous is a
great
better word
word.
than tedious. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
envy that.
yeah.
That
I
ability.
wish I was more like that, but there's other people I talk to like, I wish I had a gen. Like John has told me that forever. He's like, I wish I had a gen that could do, some of these other things or, whatever, but
It's so true.
it works out well. It works out well. So,
Nice.
um, as we're talking about, couples in filming and, you've been known as our industry as one of the people that's really pushing story and finding, important moments and key moments and that stuff.
Mm,
We're definitely seeing a shift in the wedding industry. And I would assume that, Canada is similar to what it is here, but, specifically with uh, Gen Z couples, finally, getting up and getting engaged and getting married and that stuff that, when we started, decade and a half ago, more of the slower cinematic epic feeling film, like that was the
yeah.
go-to.
Uh-huh.
And then a major shift that has happened with this group, is they care more about like rawness and authenticity and wanting it to look like real, not necessarily polished. And there's
Yeah,
lots of reasons to that. We can, social media, TikTok, that's probably a big pusher with that. But
totally.
with the style of edit that you do, where you're
Mm,
really focusing on the story, you're focusing on the people. You've been on record as like, we don't film details necessarily.
mm.
I mean, very
Pretty
little of
rare.
that kind of, yeah, yeah. If we can, film a reception detail space or people at cocktail hour, we're going to cocktail hour. Like that's the kind of filmmaker
Yep.
you are. So this long-winded question that I am trying to get to
I love
is,
it.
have you seen a shift in the couples that you have, and are you getting much push, or how are they leaning into what you are doing with being people that are showing more like raw, more real life in all of those moments with your edits? Are people
Yeah.
still like really digging in and digging those kind? Am I making sense with this question?
Digging
I
it?
feel like
Are they
I'm,
digging
yeah, yeah. Are they digging it? Are
it?
they digging it? What's
Yes.
your feeling on all of
Yeah.
that topic?
I've I've noticed that shift too, and it's been maybe less a shift, more of a trend, just
Hmm.
in the people holding the cameras too. I think generally speaking, what that polished look you were describing, the real quote unquote cinematic, like make it look like a
Hmm.
Michael
Hmm.
Bay movie type thing, was a real novelty early on because it was a novel thing to be able to make. Like the technology that was allowing it was so
Right.
new, and to be able to get really cool shallow depth of field and to get cool gimbal moves and all that was interesting and unique. Now in a sea of wedding films that 90% of them, or at least up until a little while ago, they all kind of look like that, and that can kind of, I don't know, it makes it feel less special. It feels a bit played. Whereas instead, I think it's been cool to see in the industry people kind of see that and wanting to shift. And that doesn't necessarily just mean I'm going to put the gimbal down and shoot that way. It's more about the focus, I think. And it's more, let's not just get these little tiny clips and make a wedding film. Let's let moments breathe. Let's let the experience be better for the couple. So we're not trying to, just get what we need per se. And that for us has always been a focus. We always want the couple to be as present as possible and forget about us as best as they can, and just be themselves because we feel that that creates such a better film. And I'm sure most people would agree with that. But you can enhance that feeling in how you shoot also. So
Hmm.
we're very much we're trying to do a lot of longer shots, not just pulling clips, but like trying to make our A-roll moments more as interesting as B-roll moments. That's a big thing that I've been telling myself this year. I've been working on. And I think for couples, they see that, and or they more so feel that. Like we
Hmm.
haven't seen a shift in couples asking us for different things, but we have noticed a shift, like especially in like first meetings, what couples are saying they really like about our work, and they often point at we just like how it feels like it's a story about humans, and that's something that we really want to aim at. We don't want this just to feel like a wedding film. We want our wedding films to be just like these honest little films about humans that happen to be on their wedding day. And I think people are starting to really feel that and look for that kind of feeling, even though they can't put their finger on it per se. Because, like you said, TikTok, the rise of authenticity being the most important thing
Hmm. Hmm.
online is huge, and it's gone over to every industry through film, but also like commercials, big time, and
Hmm.
marketing
Hmm.
and all that stuff. I think it goes a long way in helping people feel connected. And right now, that is somewhat more of a novel thing in terms of what small production studios are doing or
Hmm.
wedding film companies are doing.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, as you're saying that, I'm sitting here and I think that there is I don't know. I saw something in one of the videographer groups about the rise of content creation again,
Yeah,
and um, which is a real thing, and this kind of fits loosely a little bit into that idea, but it seems to me that the wedding video industry is kind of in a crossroads, so to speak, because you have so many people wanting to go the luxury high end, like that. When we started, the authentic raw kind of movement was what everyone wanted to do, and elopements and like that kind of thing, right? And
totally.
in the last few years, it's really shifted into like a luxury high end. And so I think you have a lot of wedding filmmakers that want to create that type of work because
Mm,
they can see the financial benefit in the long run, right?
yeah,
It's where
hard to
it's like,
deny.
oh, I want the high end planner in my area to recognize me and to refer me, and they get bigger weddings. Therefore, I need to shoot so that they will recognize me, right? So you have
Right.
you have that kind of that side of things. But
Yeah.
what's interesting is you have the common folk, and I don't mean that I don't mean that in a bad way or anything like that, but it's like high end luxury is a very, very small percentage of the wedding industry.
Yes.
Yeah, they might spend a lot of the money in the wedding, but that group of people is a small percentage. And then you have the other people that are not um, having those kind of weddings, but
Mm,
yet filmmakers are trying to maybe pigeonhole those kind of weddings into high end so that they can get recognized by the planners and that sort of stuff. But so that's why I kind of see a rise in the content creation, right?
Yeah.
Is that people want moments and they want moments fast and they want moments quick. And, that's, and I see what you are doing and what you have done for a long time is maybe a little bit of a bridge,
Mm.
with those two
Yeah, I see
things
what you're
where you're like,
saying.
I am creating something that is going to be very high end, at least in how it's produced, how it's made, the effort and all that stuff that I am putting into it. But I'm still keeping that real, raw, authentic stuff that I know that people are looking for
Yeah.
in it. Um, just
I
just
think
an
the
observation.
soul, yeah, because I think you're right. And the soul of what content creation is going for, I like. I like that quite a
Hmm.
lot.
Hmm.
Being a camera nerd, I don't like the apparatus used per se,
Sure, sure.
and shooting vertical. But the
Hmm.
the heart of it, I think, is in the perfect place. You're looking for the real, authentic feelings of a day, and these days, shooting from with your phone is the quickest way to do that. I like the idea of, well, what if you combined that thought process with the actual craft of filmmaking instead of just pointing and shooting. That's where you have
Hmm.
a really powerful combination. And I think the challenge with that luxury space you're talking about, it is a lot of creating for others. That's not in and of itself wrong. It's just not what I personally am interested in. I'm not interested in. I'm not excited about making, a sizzle reel that's just going to be what your typical luxury wedding film might look like. I think
Hmm.
well, A, I'm not interested. B, I couldn't do it as well as people do it. Um, but I think, yeah, so I do it.
You
Do
said
it.
doo doo.
Do
You
it.
said doo doo.
Do do. We're 12. Um,
Oh, anyways.
uh, anyway, yeah. Yeah, I think I'm glad you see that in our work because it is definitely something we strive for, and I think it draws a much more deep connection, especially for the everyday viewer, someone who doesn't know the couple per se, but they're
Hmm.
watching a
Hmm.
film. They'll feel those things a lot quicker.
Right, right. And I said this, for a long time. I knew a wedding photographer that was big time,
Mm,
and in the local market, and it was, he'd been around forever. And then when this newer crop started coming up and styles kind of shifted and styles kind of changed, he didn't. And then he was
mm,
like struggling until eventually he was like, okay, I'm done,
I'm out.
doing this. It's because people's wants changed, people's desires changed. And I think that, one phrase that John and I have said on this podcast over and over again is you need to adapt or you might die in
Right.
your business. And so that's where there are so many crossroads, like, well, when it comes to content creation, is that a viable option for me? Do I want to do that? Or
Yeah.
is that just a thing that's going to make money? Do I want to lean into this luxury stuff? Or do I go in and start taking maybe the heart and the idea of why people want content creation and then plug it into, my big boy camera
Yeah.
work that I want to do there. So, um,
100%.
yeah.
Yeah, I think there is a middle ground there, and I,
Mhm, mhm,
I, I, I see like I have some videographer friends here that have switched to offering, or not switched, but have added offering content creation, and there's a big part of it that's really attractive. I think the harder part is like making sure couples are cool with it in terms of like just
mhm.
remember that's all you're getting.
Right.
You're not going to be transported back per se. You're not going to be able to hear, at least I'm assuming, I'm not sure exactly what content creator packages include, but I don't think there's a lot of, like multicam dock edits
Yeah.
associated with
Yeah.
those. So that's a big omission, I feel like. But if people are cool with it, that's great. I also feel like the barrier to entry is so low for content creators, and a lot of people will likely have a friend do it. We've seen that quite a lot. Like, hey, friend, here's the phone, just be
Hmm.
around, go nuts.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. I'm watching that space. It's not something I'm interested in, but it's just interesting to watch. And
Right. Right.
yeah.
So
And
let me.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to add one more point. You were talking about the luxury market earlier. It is challenging too, because especially I've been hearing up here in Canada, our market is so much smaller compared to the States. Um, but the luxury market, even in the States, like, yes, you could probably fill your calendar with luxury weddings if that's what you're going for, somewhat comfortably. Up here, there's definitely not the option for more than a couple filmmakers to do that nationwide, and that would require quite a bit of travel. So if that's not something you're interested in, that business model doesn't always make sense for people, especially in smaller markets. So that's another point where I see content creation being an attractive thing.
I want to pause my conversation with Mac here really quick to talk to you about our friends over at MusicBed. MusicBed is the premier place that John and I both use to license all of the music from our films. They have high quality music that is the best in for people in our industry. It is an incredible resource. It is something that you should definitely be looking into. You can download your songs by matching with various keys or tempo. They have AI search features that really help you narrow down and speed up that song selection process. And right now they are offering a free 14-day trial over at howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed. You can sign up. You have 14 days to download 3 songs. You can use them in your film and use them any way you want. So it's a really great deal. It's a really great offer. MusicBed is incredible. Make sure you go check them out at howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed. You've been a guy, I said this before, and you've been on, talking about story and leaning into that stuff and more of the real, the raw, the authentic, uh, that kind of thing. And so,
Mm,
what what are things that and this could be might just be second nature to you, and so you're like, I don't know, I just do what I do, but what are things that you are paying attention to or trying to pay attention to, so that you can get some of those moments to let your films breathe more? Is it
mm.
primarily just in the conversations ahead of time? Is it questionnaires, or is it you're just paying attention on the wedding day? Like, what things are you trying to hone in on to be able to get more um,
Yeah.
on the wedding day?
I'm really trying to tell myself, like, I'm working on myself in terms of I need to be more present. I need to be more
Mhm.
in the moment instead of always being, concerned about, oh, I got to set up right before the ceremony starts, make sure all the audio's going. That's going to happen regardless. But if I can remind myself throughout the day, hey, it's okay, be here now, um, and capture what you're seeing, what you're hearing, and hold shots a bit longer.
Mhm.
I'm so used to being like, hey, got it, move, and just go and go to the next thing. What if, though, a wedding film had those moments that where, things are breathing and you are drawn in all the more because cutting, while of course necessary, every time you cut, it's an illusion. And I do think there's some part of a viewer when they're watching, it's less they're drawn in and more they're kind of impressed per se
Mhm.
with an edit with certain edits. But if you are watching a clip that is going long and like it's, taking its moment to breathe and it still captivates you and holds your attention, that's so powerful. And that is the quickest way, combined with some wonderful sound design, you can really draw someone in and transport them there. So I've been working at trying to do that combined with like I said earlier, making my A-roll moments more like B-roll moments in terms of how I approach them. Like I
Mm.
want to have these long shots, but I want to make choices with them. I don't want to just be like, well, I capture the aisle walk this way every time, so that's what I'm going to do. There's always going to be an element of that on a wedding day because you are capturing live events, so you have to play it safe in certain regards. But I'm trying to push myself and having my safety set up and be like, okay, for this moment, for this couple, from what I've learned from them, I'm going to push myself in the first look and I'm going to capture it a different way than normal. That's
So
been a big
what's
focus.
so let what's an example of that? Because
Yeah.
I'm tracking with you and I think, oh, that's a really cool thing. But if it's, I have my camera and I'm on the groom, and my wife's camera and she's on the bride, and we're just like crisscross shooting.
Yeah.
What other option are there? What else are you
I
thinking of?
guess the big example I can think of is like an aisle walk. That's such a peak moment of a day. The safe thing to do, the thing I do a lot of the time, and there's nothing wrong with it, but I'm, at the front of the aisle, ready for her to come to me, um, in terms of the camera direction.
Hmm. Hmm.
And usually my wife or person who's shooting with me is capturing the groom's reaction. Awesome. What if if the couple, this is a specific film I'm thinking of, there was a couple that said, "Hey, that first aisle walk moment is very important to us." They did not have a first look because they were really focused on making sure this moment was powerful and they wanted to feel all the feels. So I knew that anticipation right before was going to be up top. So instead of being at the front of the aisle, just waiting for things to come to me, I took a risk and was like, all right, I'm going to go back to where the bride and her dad are hanging out and just stay with them the whole time. I had a backup camera in place to be able to capture the aisle walk as a safety, but I instead just focused just handheld raw. This is actually when I wasn't even doing a whole lot of handheld too. And I just followed them into the church. And I held the shot for a really long time, the whole way down to, maybe a third into the aisle, and then I let them continue. And you could see just in their body language, you could see and how the glances at each other, you could really see the anticipation and feel it all the more. And for the film, that made for a way more interesting sequence than just here comes the bride. It was,
Hmm.
she's got the jitters. And then on the flip side, of course, seeing the groom's jitters too, and being able to intercut that
Hmm.
was really cool. I don't think there's enough focus on before the ceremony. A lot of people focus on after, which is a wonderful time where people are hugging and celebrating that, okay, the hard part's done, but,
Right.
or we did it. But the pre moments can be really cool.
Yeah. And talking about story, one of the things in a natural story arc, there needs to be some sort of conflict or some sort of tension or some sort of and like there's one film that we put together where it was the song kind of did its swell a little bit and then it was kind of fading out before it kind of hit again, and like
Mm,
that moment was the perfect moment to have the groom, like as his like the solo tear is like literally the one tear is coming down, and I ended up, it was like 10 seconds
mm.
of just his face, and I just did a
Oh,
slow like zoom in,
yep.
but when you coupled it and it was, and when I did it, I told Jen, I said, this is really long and it feels like you can feel a little bit of tension, but I think
Yeah.
the payoff is worth it. And she agreed, and like
So good.
that is a simple way, if you're
Yes.
holding on a shot and you have the right shot in the right moment and you're like, hey,
Yes.
normally I would put this on for 3 seconds, what if I double that, what if I triple that,
Yeah.
and what maybe that could do to the overall experience of the person watching it is really um, just something different, I think that.
Well, yeah, well, you're subverting expectations, right? Like we're
Mhm,
all inundated with edited things all the time. So if someone's
mhm,
watching, like, oh, this is different, and there's a reason why it's different, and I feel that.
mhm, mhm.
It's so
Yeah,
cool you did that.
yeah, yeah. um, yeah, it was really good. I did a really good job on that one.
Yeah,
Thank
I was
you.
going to say, you
Thank
know
you.
a thing or two about this wedding film thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, I think that, as I get older and as I'm, you know, doing this more and more, I've watched over the last, couple weeks as we've been talking, I've watched a couple of your films. We had you on Behind the Edit, a couple of months
Yeah,
ago,
that was
and
fun.
and we watched that one. Watching some films by Madeline, some of her work, which I think
She's
is a very
wonderful.
similar vibe, in your guys' approaches and stuff. And I think that that is stuff that I am drawn to. And, I know my wife really, she's like, if I'm going to keep working and keep doing this stuff, like I want to do stuff like that, that really
Yeah.
fulfills me. And it's just a little bit of a different take on it. So,
Yeah.
uh, anyway, I find myself being drawn to that. And, that's always the weird thing about running a business is it, you know, do you do the things that you want to do,
Right.
or do you do the things that your couples want? Like Mr. Beast, I don't know if you knew this, but he has a chocolate bar line, right? His
I've seen that.
Beastable or whatever it's called. Whenever he initially did it, he was like, I'm only going to do dark chocolate because that's the chocolate that he prefers and that's the chocolate that he eats. And he was like, my team had to talk me into doing milk chocolate. Like I had no clue that 85% of the world eats milk chocolate, not dark chocolate. I had no clue, you know? And he's like, it turned out to be a really good move on his part, but so like there's always that line, right? Is like,
Yeah,
is this a bad move for me to lean into this stuff, or what to do?
right.
And again, that's all business stuff that
Yeah,
each person has to
having
figure out.
that perspective and self-awareness is hard because I think most of us being in this creative line of work, most people in the wedding film world got into it to be creative. I think that, especially without a lot of outside intervention, for the most part, our couples trust us. They let us do what we want. So we really do get to make stuff we are interested in. But the business part of our brains has to, that's a reality. We have to make sure that, what we're doing is something that people want, not just what we want. So that
Right.
is a tough balance, but
Right. And I think most of us will be way more fulfilled by doing the type of work that really interests us. Just the question
100%.
that the question that we all need to ask is the work that fulfills me able to pay the bills?
Sustainable, yeah.
Right, right, sustainable. So,
Especially with
oh,
time,
yeah.
like to be able to give yourself enough time and not, spread yourself too thin is really difficult.
One more break here, and I want to talk to you about our outsourcing partners over at howtofilmweddings.com/outsourcing. Bride and Groom.video and Story Mix Editing are incredible resources that will help you get your time back. They are services that you can use that will really get that dreaded backlog monster off of your back. But you need to reach out now. It is springtime, it is summertime. I know the wedding season is really ramping up for so many of you out there. So be sure to head over to howtofilmweddings.com/outsourcing. Check out our partners that are listed there and get rid of that backlog monster at howtofilmweddings.com/outsourcing. Yeah. Speaking of time, I
Yes.
think that's a good segue to talk about your new project that you
Let's get
have, your
into
new
it.
product that you are getting ready or have recently released. It just depends on when this podcast comes out into the
Right.
world.
Hmm.
And I want you to talk to me about Plotline. Where did the idea come from? Like, what was kind of its start? And then just kind of break down and share with our audience what it is.
So Plotline, yeah, in the short version is it is a filmmaking tool that's geared for the storytelling aspect of wedding films. So what I wanted personally, and I am not quite as lucky as yourself. I didn't have a lovely partner like well, I have a lovely partner. Erin's the best, but Erin's
Yeah,
not an
yeah, you
editor. She
have to
has
say
no
that she's
interest.
listening. You have to
Yeah,
say that she's
phew.
listening.
Yeah, I feel it. I'm gonna get a dart to the neck, and she's gonna. Um, yeah, she had no interest in editing, and as much as I begged her to be like, "Oh, it'd be so helpful if you could just pull some selects for me and kind of get my
Mhm.
timeline ready, so I could sit down and just focus on the creative part." That was where the idea for making something that could do that for me kind of came. So Plotline, that's its goal. It is a service where you are uploading your full wedding day audio. So be it first look ceremony speeches or just ceremony speeches, what have you, card readings. In linear order, you upload an MP3 to this service called Plotline. It transcribes it all for you. It identifies speakers for you. And then based on some parameters that you, the filmmaker, set, some preferences, it will distill and curate that to the most story-driven, focused, and emotional moments. You can control the film length, so you can basically tell it how much you want and how long your target film is going to be. So that can, and then you can export it to your editor. And then when you're sitting down to your edit, you have the best stuff already kind of curated for you in a broadly suggested order.
Mhm.
And that was something that I thought, oh, wouldn't that be cool if that existed? But the technology, especially like, I won't hide it, the engine of this, a big part of it is AI. And AI and creativity, I have mixed feelings about. But the core thought of it kind of grew as I was trying it for myself. I thought, well, it's not doing anything for me per se that I wouldn't make or I wouldn't do as the creative person anyhow. It's just getting me there quicker. So I sit down and I'm going to be editing this wedding film with all the best stuff ready to go instead of pouring 4 hours or more or something going through every single moment throughout the day. That's still an option, but I want to be able to sit down and jump to it a little quicker. And then if it's wrong, which is rare, but if Plotline gets something that I don't like, that's great. I got to my decision faster. I didn't have to find that the hard
Mhm.
way.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's been an exciting thing to build. I basically just wanted to build something for myself, and then as it was coming along, I thought, you know what, people might this might be interesting for others too. Yeah.
And as someone that you blessed with a beta version of it to kind of let me play around with it, I can definitely
Yeah.
say it's an incredible product, and it is
Thanks, man.
it's really intuitive. It's easy to use. There's sometimes, with new products or things, there's such a learning curve. They're like, man, this is
Mm.
really, but it's literally you upload it, you tell it a few things, you select some parameters, and then it goes and does it for you. As
Yeah.
I was kind of sitting on this and kind of thinking about Plotline, one of the things that's outside of it just being so easy to use, I think that this is going to be so beneficial for people that are solopreneurs specific,
Yeah.
that they don't have anyone to bounce ideas off of, and they don't have anyone to
Yes.
talk to about things. And I think that it's an incredible thing, because they're like, here, yes, it's all AI, but it's picking up important moments. It knows, I don't know how you trained it to know things, but this is like an emotional thing. This is a high thing. And
Yeah.
you might be able to piece something together, but it might have some suggestions that can put it together better.
And
Or
get your brain working in a certain way. Yeah.
right. It's like the artists today that are using AI stuff, they are not having, if it's a picture, they're not just having Mid-Journey make a picture for them, right?
Yeah.
They are having Mid-Journey kind of get their brain in the right space and going, and then, oh, it did this here. Let me improve on that. Let me make it my own. Let me make it. And I
Yes.
think that it's such a helpful thing. But the whole just time thing, people
Yes.
want to get through stuff faster, but still have it be good. And
Yeah.
it's so helpful. I've told you this. I'm simply blown away
Yeah.
by
You
this
were
thing. It's
so kind.
and I was truthful. Like, I wasn't just saying that because I like you. Very truthful. And
Thanks, man.
yeah. So where can people, if they want to see what it's about, where can they learn more about this thing?
They can go to plotline.pro. That is the website. Yeah, like you said, hopefully when this episode drops, that the early access beta will be available to everyone. And I'm really excited to get this into more hands. I think I've had around 10 or 12 people test drive it
Mhm.
for me so far, and I've gotten really good feedback. And one of the things you said in your initial feedback, which was so cool to hear you put it into these words, and I hadn't necessarily thought about it. Sometimes, or actually oftentimes, the hardest part is just getting started in a
Oh
wedding,
yeah.
especially if you weren't necessarily inspired specifically by the day or the couple or what have you.
Mhm.
So this really can just jumpstart you into, oh, okay, yep, that's how I'm gonna do this film. Or, oh, I don't like this, but I do like this. I'll switch it around, and here I go. I think that's a really big, powerful thing. Because like you said, time is so precious, especially for kind of any solo entrepreneurs. That's a really hard thing to do. And to gain time back, often the answer or the thing talked about is outsourcing. I got nothing against outsourcing. It's just as like we were talking earlier, as the storytelling kind of mindset is the thing I'm most interested in. Um, it isn't something I'm willing to give up. I don't want that control to be
Mhm.
handed over to someone else. So if I can
Mhm.
save some time, and this allows me to take on another few weddings in a year and not, wear myself out too much, then that's a pretty attractive tool. I'd like that in my arsenal. So I think people will really find that that's the case with this. And where Plotline can get even more powerful is if you do have kind of a strategy or a thought or an inspiration for your wedding film before you start using Plotline. Like when you get into it and you are entering, hey, I want the focus to be. I remember the wedding day, they were talking a lot about how they met in a certain country or what have you. I'm thinking of a specific wedding. The couple met in London. I typed that in and said, I want to emphasize that. And it pulls out all those great moments. It can set out or can detect themes and motifs and be able to set those up and pay those off properly. And it can be a really, really powerful tool that way. So
Yeah,
I hope people really
definitely.
like it.
Yeah. And it's a lot of people in our industry didn't get started because they went to film school and
Right.
they understand story structure and like how all that's supposed to work out and like how stories are told and the what is it, the 6 or 8 different archetypes, like every single
Yeah.
movie that's ever made is, these 6 different, archetypes, what like a lot of wedding people don't understand, or they might understand it, but they didn't set out to necessarily do this. And that's one of the
Yes.
things that I think is really neat about Plotline and how it's put together is, there's a little bubble next to it. Like this is the hook and this is the character, about specifically about the character. This is their origin story. Here's kind of a story arc that I'm focusing on. And, the
Yeah.
climax and the resolution, just it puts all of that stuff in there. And again, it's kind of a take it or leave it kind of thing, right? You get it back and you're like, you know what? I actually don't care that the officiant said this thing. And so you just, but maybe this middle arc part you really like. You're like, I like actually how this is placed together and how it's pieced together. And then you can take it and, run that way with it. It just, uh, again, I think it's going to help a lot of people, one from a time standpoint, but also just thinking maybe a little bit differently. Yeah, and really saving a lot of time.
Yeah, because that was one thing when we launched our story masterclass a few years back. One thing we really realized through doing that was everyone that did sign up, a lot of them were like, "Hey, this is just like you're kind of saying. This hasn't been an area of particular focus for me as a creative. We all get into this industry for different reasons. I think it's more often than not a lot of video people are wooed by the technology and making things look pretty, and then story comes later. So we did find a lot of people, or they're, it's a one-man band or two-man band mentality usually with these with this line of work. And since we're juggling a lot of things, the area we're passionate about might not always be story. That's just where my head was at. So
Hmm.
understanding that, finally being like, oh, okay, some people do want a little, uh, not leg up per se, but they do want a little help in certain areas. So that's where the story masterclass was really cool to see how it helped people. But further than that, oh, what if there was a tool? What if there was an assistant that was like your assistant editor that could help you find some story elements? Maybe it is perfectly done, the full story, or here maybe this is a good jumping off point.
Hmm.
I thought that would be a really cool thing. So I'm glad it's for real now.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely a really, really powerful tool. And so that website is plotline.pro.
That's right.
Plotline.
Yeah.
Okay,
Same on
plotline.pro.
Instagram. Yeah.
Okay, okay, I love it. Yeah, I just um today recorded or yesterday recorded a little YouTube video, just kind of my experience with it, and I use this um example of Lego in that you go if you go to Denmark, which is Lego headquarters, they give you
Right.
6 red bricks that I'm holding in my hand that if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. And there are over 900 million different combinations that you can stack these 6 bricks in. It's like
Whoa.
915 million. And I mean, if you take that into a wedding, any video, right, that you film, it's like is it really that far off of that many combinations that you could have of one wedding? Because, okay, what's the order going to be? How am I going to pace this film? And then you get that laid out, but then there's all the music that you can pick, and then there's the different kind of color grading you can do, and the sound effect, just all these
A
little tweaks
hundred
and all these
percent.
little things. And it's, whenever you it's the Netflix conundrum where you're like, I want to watch something on Netflix, but there are so many options that you spend looking at it for 45 minutes, and then you go back to your comfort food, Friends or The
Yep.
Office. I know they're not on there anymore, but you go back to those same things because you're just tired of looking. And that's one thing that's so exciting about Plotline is it can help you just get going and get started because
Yeah.
that's the hardest part about any journey that you go on is just taking that first step and just doing that first thing. And so
It's
it's a
so true.
really, really cool product.
Oh, that's awesome to hear you say. And it's true. Like for me, for anyone, the blank page is a terrifying thing. The huge hunk of clay, that's terrifying. It can be anything. So to kind of have some parameters as an option to get started can be such a help. Like sometimes that's part of the reason I like shooting how we shoot and being more focused on just the human moments because I don't have to think about all the gear to make these polished Michael Bay looking things. It's distilled down for me. So the same goes with the edit. If you're wanting to make an impactful story, what if it was the options were narrowed down for you a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that's plotline.pro.
Dude,
I
thanks, man.
I highly recommend it. If my word means anything to you, listener, you definitely do want to check it out. You do want to check it out.
Definitely.
Again, it's powerful, and just the ease of use for it, and little things like oh, I don't want mom's speech in this at all because she was wasted and she said some stupid stuff. It recognizes who the speakers are. So you can say,
Right.
do not include mom, and it won't. Like
Yeah.
just little things about it. So anyway,
Yeah.
I'm really excited for you, and I'm pumped to
Thanks,
see what
dude.
happens with this thing over the next, few weeks and months. So yeah, it's
Cool,
really cool.
man. Thanks. I'm pumped too. We got some exciting things planned that it's going to improve it even more, but I'm really excited right now just for people to try it out.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Maclean, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me, catching up a little bit, and making
Thanks
this
for
thing.
having me.
Anything else before we get out of here that you want to mention?
I just want to mention you and John, how rad you guys are. It's cool to see your hearts for this industry. It's cool to see what you do. You were so sweet. As soon as I sent you this, you were so enthusiastic and encouraging, and you recorded a YouTube video even without me mentioning it. You were like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna do it." I just really appreciate your guys' heart for this industry and supporting all creatives and filmmakers doing this. So
Yeah.
shout out to you.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I appreciate that. So, well, it has been good to hang out. It's been good to catch up. Put the
Likewise.
link in the description, but you
Yes.
can find more about plotline.pro is the website. Thanks for hanging out with me, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, buddy.
Mac, thank you so much for taking the time today to talk to me on the podcast. I'm really excited about Plotline. Again, that website is plotline.pro. If you would like more information about it, it's an incredible resource. Thank you so much. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. If there is anything that I can help you with, if you need anything, why don't you send me a DM over at How to Film Weddings on Instagram? I would love to connect with you and answer any questions that you might have and help you out. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, we will see ya.